history is important from the perspective of you can't know where we're headed. You can't make good predictions or come up with good, you can't be creative or inventive if you don't know where we've come from. You have to know history to know the trajectory. You have to know history to know, okay, here's what we used to know and how we learned that that was wrong, and then how we learned that that was wrong, and how we learned that that was wrong. And there's a system of creativity, a system of imagination that you learn. So like imagination is basically a language, and you have to become fluent in it to be able to speak I don't know, in a predictive way, in a way that's going to contribute to the field. So history isn't just some old relic, it's how to advance your understanding. Because everything we know today is sort of ludicrous too. Everything we teach today, think about technology, right? Like Cameron is writing on like an electronic device, just like a huge iPad thing, and just like taking notes on it. That would have been like a miracle in 1980, right? I mean, that would have just changed the world. I mean, the most basic technology today would have seemed alien in the 80s or even the 90s. And so we're looking at this rapid change in technology. Guess what is developing just as fast, if not faster?
Exercise physiology.
Exercise physiology, medicine, biochemistry, all of these fields, which really used to be one, all of these fields that sort of divided and then subdivided and subdivided, this is developing much faster than technology, and we all know how fast technology is developing. So what we talk about in 2015 versus 2020, in 2010 versus 2015, and so on and so on and so on, the world is really advancing. And if we're going to rely on a decade ago's material, that's like you might as well be putting in the VHS into the VCR, right? And so history is really today. History is a week ago, but history is also 5th century BC, right? When we count it backwards, so that's 401 to 500. And like these are ballpark figures because nobody really knew anything. Like people didn't have like birth certificates and stuff. So let's get some ballpark figures. Now, we all know Hippocrates. I'll talk about all three of them today. Herodotus, I'll get to second, but this is the guy who came up with the concept of exercise as medicine, or at least he's the guy who documented it. And we've lost all of his publications. Nobody knows like where any of his publications are. He was the mentor of Hippocrates, and so we have a lot of commentary about him and his lessons, his teachings, what he contributed to science. But we don't have in his own mouth and hand. They're all Greek. All of this is from Greece. That doesn't mean Greece is the origin of medicine. India contributes. Medicine has come from all over the globe, but Greece sort of famously has his major contributions to the origin of medicine. Now, exercise is medicine. This EIM, exercise is medicine. ECSM launched this exercise as medicine movement, right? This is ecsm.org is the web address. 2018, they're talking about having launched this in 2007. In 2007, like Anno Domini, right? AD, it just happened, 2007. But exercise as medicine was Herodotus in the 5th century BC. That's pretty much all he talked about. And this idea that medicine and exercise are somehow different, that in 2007, it's a big movement to unite the two, to fuse the two. These were fused all along. Think about mitosis. What's mitosis?
Cells.
Yeah, Cameron's doing the physiological sign language.
The diagram. I can see it in my mind.
Mitosis, the splitting. With this all, medicine came from a single cell, a single philosophical cell, academic cell. And then it starts to divide in a number of ways. And if we're going to do the history of medicine proper, we can talk about allostatic medicine, homeopathic medicine, homeopathy. We can talk about surgery. We can talk all these different branches of medicine that sort of diverge. Again, divide, subdivide, subdivide, subdivide. And now everyone pretends that you can't refuse them. Skeletal muscle is sort of this collection of fused cells, myoblasts. Muscle is a huge cell. It needs a lot of nuclei, myonuclei, muscle cell nucleuses. If you don't have that, if you're like, no, I'm an isolationist, I'm an island, don't fuse cells with me, you have a little weak, ridiculous muscle that's useless. We have to fuse these things. We have to fuse cells to make functional tissues. It's certainly in the case of muscle physiology. If we can't fuse fields of medicine, if we have these fields of medicine and we can't unite them and say, well, these are the same thing, or these work together, we should be riding the tandem bicycle, the physiological tandem bike, then we're going to have these weak, futile, sort of flaccid, concepts. And so when we start with Herodicus, or think about like continents, right? In 1500s, I think it was, the first people were looking at the map going, wow, look at South America and look at Africa. And it's like a plug in a socket, right? Brazil was like once upon a time married to Cameroon. You know what the map looks like. Like let's draw North America as a fire. Just pretend it's red. And then like South America, right? Here's Brazil. Africa is like that. There's Cameroon right there. It's like, and they got a divorce. And geologists say it's like 2.5 centimeters a year. They're drifting apart. Okay, the science is there. In the 20th century, children can look at a map. A child can go to social study. What is like an elementary school class where you're looking at a map? Is that like social studies? Like a 10-year-old child who for some reason is drunk can go to class, look at the map and say, they used to be together. But in the 20th century, hot topic, hotly debated. Not a chance they were together. But if you think about all of this stuff, it all comes from the same place. The Pangea equivalent of medicine, yeah, it's separating. And medicine is separating more, it's separating faster than 2.5 centimeters a year. Medicine is really, people are like, no, we are not, like the word sport medicine in a hospital, they get kissed. As though one has nothing to do with the other. Right? But like everyone in this room has a common ancestor. We share a mommy if you go back far enough. We share a daddy if we go back far enough. We have concestors, common ancestors, right? And it would do us well. Imagine how that would serve racial tensions if we all admit that if you go back far enough, we share parents. We were all one giant island, right? We all have common ancestors and stuff. How well that would serve us from a sociological perspective. In the same way for medicine, how well would it serve medicine if we admit that it all comes from the same place? And if we were to fuse it together, we would get a more functional muscle, a more functional treatment system for medicine. And so that's Herodicus, right? 5th century BC, really the foundation of medicine is exercise.